Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. Sorry about my voice today. It's a little terrible today, but I'll try to get through this as much as I can. Just wanted to talk about Luka's return to Dallas and what that meant to the game. Now, Luka's return to Dallas was a spectacle. I wasn't even expecting this performance or this atmosphere that they created. I just tuned into the game, just happened to tune in. Really wasn't anything on TV anyway. I haven't been a huge fan of the NBA for the last couple of years. I check in on the major games, and this game was definitely one of those because of the atmosphere that was created and the emotions that was with it. But some people were having mixed feelings, thinking that maybe the fans wouldn't embrace Luka. Some were saying it's no way they have to embrace Luka, and they definitely embraced him. They definitely gave him the love that he deserved because he didn't ask for the trade. He wanted to be there. They traded him without much notice, if any notice. And, he definitely put on a show, the show. He still has it. He's still worth, all of the attention and all of the all of the things that come with the superstardom that he has. So, and this was a lot different than anybody else's return to their old team. So when you think about LeBron when he left Cleveland for Miami and came back to Cleveland as a Miami Heat, that was something different. The boos were loud because he requested that. When Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City and went to the Warriors and returned back to Oklahoma City as a Warrior, it was a lot of boos and a lot of hatred because he requested that. Even though he was a free agent, he went to another team that was considered a rival that were pretty upset about that. So this was a lot different. I didn't hear any boos. I heard a lot of love. The broadcast, just them showing the montage before the game, it was very emotional. I shed a tear. Luka definitely shed tears. I don't know how uh, LeBron or his roommate, I mean not roommates, teammates didn't get that emotional either. Maybe they did, but they didn't show everybody at the time. But it was a very emotional game before it even started. But Luka definitely showed out, scoring 45 points. They kept going back to the GM, Nico, and he just felt bad, but I don't think it's Nico's fault. He doesn't have final say in the organization. He's just the GM. He has to report to the ownerships and the ownership group, which when they showed Mark Cuban, it led me to think that he would have never made this move. He even made a comment before he wouldn't trade him for anything. So we know in this situation, Dallas was wrong, but the NBA got this right because this moment created a moment that the NBA needed. The NBA needed a moment to where there is a hostile environment. There's a lot of emotions, controlled emotions. There's a lot of fanfare. There's a lot of storylines. So, other than the storylines with Luka and the Dallas Mavericks, it created the storyline of ownerships being loyal to their superstars. Now, there's been talks about uh, Trae Young being traded from Atlanta. He's been there all the time, but they're not winning, so they want to go maybe a different route. There's been talks about every player you could think of being traded at some point. Even LeBron when he was with the Lakers. I mean, earlier in his Laker career, there was reports about him being possibly traded. One of the best players of all time in his prime. Still, he never got out of it, and they're still talking about him. So it questions the loyalty of the league, even though they have these guaranteed contracts, so much player control. But if you don't have a no trade contract, no trade clause, you can pretty much be moved around like a piece of furniture, which they don't give out a lot of no trade clauses, which I think Lucas should have negotiated in his contract. But, who knows if he even wanted that. It was impossible for anybody to think he would be traded at any point. But the NBA, they've taken a lot of hits over the last year, but this, created a moment for the NBA. I'm not sure if they'll be able to get off the momentum of this, but it's definitely needed for what they were able to do. It created the narrative of the bad guy being the owners, similar to what the NFL goes through, but the NFL has so much ownership power that it always falls back on the players. So when these players get drafted and don't pan out, it always goes back to the players. They never say the ownership or the team doesn't develop well. The team didn't create a good environment around them. It's a toxic environment. It never go back to that situation. It only goes to the players are not doing enough, or he didn't work hard enough, or he just wasn't good enough, or anything like that. It always goes to that, and it never goes to ownership, never being accountable and being culpable for their lack of involvement in the player success. So, trading a future Hall of Famer, it was just insane. But that night just exacerbated the situation, especially when they just went to the finals, NBA Finals last year. Uh, this night was just highlighting that Dallas lost that trade, or they lost that move that they made, and the NBA won because they created a storyline. They created more hunger for Luka Doncic and for the Lakers, and we'll see how far they go into the playoffs. But Luka has this massive chip on his shoulder, rightfully so. But let's see if he can turn that to a championship. He just went to the championship last year and lost to the Celtics, but now he has more manpower in LeBron James, and he has a better organization that he's playing for. So we'll check into that later into the year, well, later into the summer. But as always, until next time, I'll see you next time.